U.S. Thanksgiving is coming up this Thursday. Not just a holiday, but also a mile marker when teams take stock of what they have and what they need, and that tends to spark a lot of trade talk. To speak to that, here's insider Chris Johnston. CJ, the Rangers and the Islanders are both struggling. The Boo Birds are calling for Lou Lamoriello to be fired on Long Island, while Ranger fans are calling on management to bring in some help. And apparently there's some big names being used out there as trade bait, CJ?
Absolutely. Chris Drury, the Rangers general manager, is open for business. He's let that be known to his other general managers around the league, and specifically, he's mentioned Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider as veteran Rangers players that he'd be willing to move on from under the right circumstances. And I think this coming to light in the last day or two has really sent a shockwave through the Rangers dressing room. A trade of either of these players is not a straightforward transaction. Both of them have 15-team no-trade clauses included in their contracts, and so there could be a situation where the team would have to try to work with one of those players in order to get them to be moved on from. But the mere fact that they're publicly known to be available amongst other Rangers players tells you a little bit about the situation in New York, which might surprise some people. If you look at the standings, the Rangers hold down a playoff spot at this point in time, but there's been a general displeasure with the performance of some of the veteran players on the Rangers this season. They've dropped 3 games in a row, and management is now considering other options to try to shake things up.
Usually management tries to keep this as quiet as possible. It's your job, along with Pierre and Darren Dreger, to bring it out to light, though. But it seems like they're not trying to hide the fact they're putting them out there. Is this maybe a strategy to kind of get them to waive their no trades?
I mean, it could be viewed that way. I think generally when you send a memo around to all the other teams, there's at least some level of expectation that it's not likely to be kept entirely confidential. Obviously, hockey's a small town, I like to say, Gino, so a lot of us talk to each other, interact with each other, and this is a pretty buzzy thing to have happen. But, let's face it, as much as it creates a headline for a couple days, in terms of making actual, tangible results on the ice, you've got to make a move at some point in time. And so, it could be in part to maybe catch the attention of everyone in the short term, but in the long term, it's only going to be moves that ultimately change the dynamic around that team.
All right, I want to shift attention to the Blue Jackets right now. They're about 500 hockey coming out of the gate right now, and they've got a great young talent on their blue line that seems to be drawing a lot of attention from around the league.
Yeah, that would be David Jiricek, the 6th overall pick from 2022, who's currently playing for the Blue Jackets farm team down in Cleveland. And, the organization has certainly had a number of trade discussions around Jiricek here in recent times. There is, some sizable interest in him, obviously, as a promising right-hand shot defensive prospect. But, at this point in time, I think Columbus is trying to sort through where the best offers are coming from. And initially, they'd focus on trying to get another prospect like him, sort of a kind-for-kind type of deal. But I think Columbus is shifting into a mode where they'll at least start to listen on draft pick packages in exchange for Jiricek, and that might help move things along on the trade front. But, it's a player that wants a fresh start. I think the organization's committed to giving it to him, and we'll see if they can complete a deal here in the near future.
That's some of the early trade talk right now. CJ, Pierre, and Darren are getting set for the full version of Insider Trading. That is coming up later today on SportsCenter.